Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Professor Akram Zaki, our renowned diplomat, passionate patriot, and a sage in terms of insights into the global affairs and the interest of Pakistan. We consider you the voice of Pakistan in the diplomatic arena. Mr. Khalid Rahman, who is Executive Director of Institute of Policy Studies and has painstakingly built relationship between Pakistani and Chinese research institutions. I think my first trip to China was due to his courtesy when we visited Urumqi back sometime 10 years back or so. And then to Chengdu. And since then, I haven't stopped visiting China. I visit China every year or two and always find my visit refreshing, enjoyable, always overwhelmed by the hospitality of the people of China, and always have come back with the intention that as soon as I'll find time, I'll come back, inshallah. I would like to welcome with deep sense of belonging and bond to the representatives from various research institutions of China. Song Ziyang is young by name, young by face, always smiling, and a very long-standing friend of UMT, of IPS, and of Pakistan. He has worked in Pakistan for a year as research scholar at IPS, and has always been keeping in touch, and he's available. Whenever I call him, I can call him anytime. He's our family friend, and he's always there. It was a surprise for me that he's part of the delegation. So it's a very thank you, Khalisa, for bringing a song, because I haven't seen him for some time. So we can again cherish our friendship. I would also like to take this opportunity to welcome Shi Lan Wen from China West Normal University, Nanjing. Is that correct? No. Institute of Central Asian Studies at Urumqi. And you know where is Urumqi? Urumqi is the headquarters of the province of Xinjiang. Is that correct? Chengdu. And it's a place which is closest to Pakistan. And we share our mountains and our borders and our culture. It is above Kashmir. We have here with us Wang Li, and he has come from the same institution from Urumqi. And then we have Zhu Homiao. And so I welcome all of you. During my various trips to China, I've had the opportunity to visit Chinese institutions. In Pakistan, we don't have a stand-alone research institution very much. You know, there are about a dozen or two maybe scattered around the country, but we have academic institutions, but not really proper research institutions where researchers are housed, and not in half a dozen or dozen, but in hundreds. And they have portfolios, they have streams of themes, where they do studies, they establish collaboration, and they do research. So I have been impressed. Chinese wisdom, Chinese research, Chinese scholarship, and Chinese passion and eagerness to go into depth. And with typical Chinese calmness and coolness. All right? So I have been impressed by their objectivity, by their thinking, and those great research institutions, some of which I had the time to visit. Ladies and gentlemen, in this conference we have some scholars from Institute of Policy Studies as well. I don't think it's a name which is unfamiliar to you. It is based in Islamabad, and it's a standalone, proper research institution. They publish various research journals, and again, for the last, I think, I would say, starting from 1977, they have been working on research in the areas of security and defense, education, energy, industrial policy and economic development, Islamic finance and economics, social themes. Khalid Rahman would be able to introduce you more to this great institution. We are really proud of this institution, that this is the first private sector policy study institution in the Muslim world set up in 1977. Today, when Chinese anthem was played here, I really couldn't understand what it says. But I think the echo of the beat of that anthem, all I could figure out, maybe it is saying China, Pakistan, China, Pak, China, Pak, or something like that. So I think it is not just built into the national anthem of China, but it is part of our common history and geography. We are two nations, two countries, but we are as close as possibly two nations could be. We are closer. We are closer than United States and Israel. We are closer than United States and Canada. We are just one. We think like one. We are one spirit and one soul in two different bodies. And we share our history spread over several millenniums, and we share our destiny and a great future. And I think it should not be surprising for research scholars that in the latest Pew Public Opinion Survey conducted in Pakistan, they found that 80% of Pakistanis, they favor China as the most favorite nation, most beloved nation, most friendly nation of Pakistan. And this survey also found out that, keeping aside China itself, where of course you would expect that Chinese would love China, Pakistan is the next country where Chinese and China is loved most outside China. So this is something which you cannot buy by spending billions or by going through some visits or bargains. This is something which is ingrained in our heart, which is written in the archetype of our nationhood. This is something which is deep down, and this is something which cannot be really quantified or measured. So then I was really impressed by the statement of the Chinese Prime Minister Li, that if you love China, love Pakistan. Which other nation, leader of which other nation would say this, would dare to say this to its people, that if you love your own nation, then you should also love Pakistan. This is a statement which should be written on the top of Himalaya. This is the statement which should be written in, I think, in our history books. No other head of any other country has ever said something like this to its own people, that if you love your nation, then you also love this nation. I think we are very strongly bonded with our other friendly countries, brotherly countries. But this is matchless. This surpasses every other bond and every other friendship that Pakistan has. So, and then the Chinese ambassadors said very beautiful prose that Pak-China relationship is higher than Himalaya, the peaks of Himalaya, is deeper than the oceans, and is sweeter than the honey, and is more fragrant than the flowers. So these are not just words where we share our friendship, which reflects the quality of our friendship. I found out that over the last 5 years, Chinese private investment, Chinese public sector investment, Chinese undertakings in Pakistan for infrastructure development, ladies and gentlemen, it crosses almost $100 billion right now. $100 billion. Now imagine the size of our partnership, imagine the extent of our economic relationship, that it crosses over $100 billion, and it is not just, it is ending here. There are talks going on, and I am sure in the next 3 to 5 years, and the topic of the seminar is emerging dynamics. I believe the most important emerging dynamic that I could trace is that this relationship is surpassing all expectations, and it is beyond the imagination of any policy maker or diplomat that where it is heading. Because with $100 billion momentum of $100 billion already in place, and not just in security or military, but in energy, in education, in infrastructure, in public services, in roads, in telecommunication. So there is no industry left now where Pakistan and China are not working together. There is no sector of the economy now left without a partnership and a strong presence of Chinese initiatives, Chinese enterprises. So I think if there is emerging dynamic, then the emerging dynamics is about its strengthening, it's about its deepening, it's about its widening, it's about just going miles and miles without any limitation set upon itself. I have been told in some of these seminars that when Pakistani ministers visit China, what's the reason of this? Reason is that when Pakistani ministers go to China for some ministerial talks, they go with an agenda that we want this, we want this, we want this. What Chinese do is that they give them an open piece of paper, unwritten, and say whatever you want, please write it down, enjoy the city, and we will come back and sign it. So this is an open slate, clean slate, open paper, standing open paper partnership where China is willing to do almost anything and everything that in the interest of Pakistan. So I feel that this seminar today is also a reflection of our partnership, that the research institutions of Pakistan and academic institutions of Pakistan are coming together to talk with each other. And this just shows that this relationship is not limited to only our heads, our prime ministers, our business groups, but it has come down to us, to students, to faculty, to universities. I have been sometimes worried that whether the relationship, the bond that was shared between the earlier leaders like Mao Zedong, Xu Enlai and others, and our founding fathers, would continue over generation or not. And over a period of time, maybe new generation of China would not share that feel, that warmth, that passion. But I think history has defied that. History has proven that newer generations of China are even more attached to this friendship, and they are born with this realization that China or Pakistan are two brotherly friends and who live together and who would work together. So this has really then again surprised me. I welcome all of you, ladies and gentlemen, and we look forward to very stimulating discussion, questions and answers, and direct and frank expressions. In emerging dynamics, the only thing I would refer to our guest from China is that worries me now. Because one worry was whether new generation of China would not be as attached to Pakistan as the previous ones were. The second is that China and India are very much a trade partner, and their trade is growing by leaps and bounds. Now, all we worry is, this is good. If China has good relationship with India, I think it's good for the region. But all we worry is that knowing our neighbor very well, that at some point, whether Chinese would be able to leverage their relationship in the interest of Pakistan, or whether India would twist it in this relationship, this expanding trade relationship in their own interest to subdue Pakistan. I'm quite sure that this will be the former will be the case. I know this, I can write it on the wall and I can sleep with comfort. But I just want to hear it from them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. No doubt China is the closest friend to Pakistan, and we are very proud of this friendship. Now I would like to invite Mr. Khalid Rahman, Director General, Institute of Policy Studies, to address the audience. Sir, kindly please come forward.
Respected Akram Zaki Sahab, Chairman of the session, Dr. Hassan Sohaib Murad, Rector, University of Management and Technology, our Chinese guests here, Dr. Abdul Hamid Sahab, Dean Faculty of Social Sciences, UMT, faculty members, students and ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed an honor and privilege for me to be here at the University of Management and Technology in connection of this conference, which is being held under the auspices of 3 Pakistani and 3 Chinese organizations. Dr. Hassan recalled our first visit together to China, and Mr. Wang Li and Ms. Shinan, let me share it with you, that was to Urumqi, and it was 2003. Those were the beginning of IPS relations with China, and of course from then onwards we have moved to higher stages with more organizations interacting with the IPS, and also IPS has been able to extend that interaction to other organizations in Pakistan. One of the example of that extended interaction is this conference that we are holding at a time in 3 cities, Islamabad, Peshawar, and here in Lahore. I also remember and can recall one of the sessions that we had in UMT in 2000, if I correctly recall, 2002 or maybe 1. We had a Chinese delegation here, and we took them to Karachi and Peshawar, and of course brought them here in Lahore. And I remember that in Lahore, the session that was held in UMT, we had, among others, Ms. Bushra Rahman also. And she raised a question to our Chinese guests, stressing, and she was very polite. She said, whenever we go to China, we find a lot of development and we feel very happy. But at the same time, we find that a lot of Western culture and tradition is coming to China, and in a way the Chinese traditional way is changing. Since she was polite, the response was also polite, and as usual our Chinese friends, they said that our great leader Deng Xiaoping has said that if you want fresh air and you open the window, there is always a possibility of flies coming into the room. So that's the cost of development that we are paying. We recognize whatever you are saying and we agree to that. Now I presented this small conversation that this is increasing. When you go to China, you find development, but at the same time, you find a different kind of China, keeping its traditions, but at the same time changing. And when I look at IPS program related to China, I find it extremely important in the sense that apparently China has opened. And in this age, when we are living in this world, which is called the information age, and a lot of tools are available to know different people and different kind of happenings all over the world. What we find in respect of China and Pakistan, that despite very good relations between the two countries at the government level and a very bright past and prospects of future, there is very little information available to the people of the two countries about each other. Let me share one of my experience that happened in one of the universities in China. I was invited to give a lecture over there, and the students and faculty members belonged to the political science department. So instead of starting my lecture, I asked the participants, tell me, what do you know about Pakistan? There was a kind of silence. But then somebody said that Pakistan is a good friend of China.
Mr. Haridana, Lucky, and all my UMT faculty member students. In fact, I'll be so excited about coming back or returning to UMT Lahore, because a few days ago I was leaving a message to Dr. Hassan on Facebook. I said I'm coming, but I intended, to keep it as a secret class, to give a surprise to Dr. Hassan. And today I'm very, very happy. And yes, in fact, I'm very excited about coming back to UMT. This is my second time to UMT, and all. Of course, this is also almost 10 times now. Yeah, almost 10 times to be back in Pakistan, and I'm feeling quite to feel at home as kind of my second home now. So while staying in Pakistan. So yeah, thank you very much for giving me this chance to say something here. In fact, since we started our program, joint program in 2005, in our institute, the Institute of South Asian Studies at the University of Chengdu, and right after that, in right that year, Dr. Hassan Murad and Harizan came to our university. They came to the Institute of South Asian Studies University to have that the first, that's the first in China, but the second between our two institutes to hold that conference, the joint conference, which was the Sino-Pakistan cooperation in the framework of globalization. And it was there where I met Dr. Hassan. And since then, I've been coming back and forth between China and Pakistan. And in fact, my PhD in the university was also South Asian economy, especially. So in the past, we've been doing something to promote the relationship in many ways in economic and cultural and personal exchanges. But that is not enough. We have to do more. So before I go to further, I need to introduce about myself. As I said, I'm coming from the Institute of South Asian Study, Tsinghua University, which is the largest in China, concentrating on South Asian study, and it was established in 1964. And this year marks the 50th anniversary of the institute. Now we have more than 10 faculty members now to research, concentrating on South Asia in many areas. And in the past years, we especially set up the Pakistan Study Center in our university in collaboration with the Pakistan Embassy in Beijing, and of course the Pakistani Consulate General in Chengdu. So we've been working very closely, and I'm very happy and very proud that we've been part of that Pakistan Study Center in Tsinghua University. Since then, the first conference we held, here in Islamabad. So now this is also the 10th time now, 10th conference now, and this also marks the 10th anniversary of this joint program. And we have been holding this conference alternately in Pakistan and China every year. So I'm very happy and proud to be part of this, and I'm enjoying and participating with most of them. And during the past years, our two institutes, along with UMT, with other institutes in Pakistan, and also others in China, we have been doing something to promote, as I say now, the better understanding of our two peoples, two great peoples. In many ways, such as our institute, the Institute of South Asian Studies, in Tsinghua University, helping the local entrepreneurs and companies to promote their business in Pakistan. And we have been receiving students from Pakistan. So far, we have some students from Pakistan studying here at Tsinghua University. And of course, we also help some Pakistan students who study in China and in other universities. Besides also, we also help the local Pakistani Consul General in Chengdu to organize some events to promote the understanding of among the people, the peoples. But as I say, this is not enough. In fact, we definitely will continue to do more on that. So, in fact, as you two think, very important think tanks in China, both in China and Pakistan, our Institute of South Asian Studies, along with IPS, Institute of Policy Studies. In the past year, we've been doing all this, but as I said, it's not defined. But this, at the same time, it also gives us some both achievements and some lessons which we should now think about. So what I'm thinking is in the future, just as Dr. Hassan and also Hadid have said that we need to do more on that. So I think maybe the following ways we can do our two and students along with the UMT. This is a very friendly UMT. University here, and I think we can cooperation and do more working closer on the fine art fields to better to improve the better understanding of the people's each other, especially the personnel, to understand each other. And in fact, during the past 2 days, yesterday and before yesterday, while in Islamabad and Peshawar, University of Peshawar, we have been holding 2 sessions of this conference. That's the Pak-China Relations, bilateral and beyond bilateral exchanges. So what I'm thinking is, in the past years, we have been working, in many ways in bilateral ties, and in fact, besides, we can do more, especially at this period of time, and with something beyond our bilateral ties, bilateral exchanges we can do. So, as a think tanks with our 2 institutes, along with the UMT and other institutes, think tanks in both of the 2 countries, we can work on more suggestions and proposals to our government. In fact, in the designing of the policies, in fact, we still have a lot to do. I think this is not enough, and we need to do more on that. And the thing is that our expertise in our institutions, we can provide with more constructive suggestions to our government officials, especially to our policy decision makers, so that we can better improve our policies towards each other. And in fact, this is something as I said, we have some basis, we have something to do more in the future. And secondly, just someone also mentioned that our trade volume has been growing rapidly in the past years, but that is not enough. And this is something we need to work more on that. And I'm very happy to say in the past years, I've been seeing a lot of businessmen from both sides coming back. Even this time on the plane, I also saw some businessmen going back, Pakistani businessmen entrepreneurs going to China to do business. And of course, at the same time, some Chinese companies, the businessmen, they come to Pakistan to do business. This is the bilateral, and mutual benefit, economic cooperations. Although this is not true, not enough, but I think we can do more on this, and there is much potential on that. So, and I'm happy in the past years I've been doing something in the future. In the past years, to help many Chinese companies to come to Pakistan. When they came to me and asked me about the situation, and then I completely convincing them, to come, and I have provided whatever I could, to help them, to let them know about more the situation here, and even for some, businessmen, I help them in person. They help me not only in their visa application and their introducing about the situation here and the business situation. So I've been doing that, but this is still not enough. Okay, which I should do more on that. And thirdly is that which is they have mentioned that in the past years we have been sending some students to our students, our master's students and others, we have been coming to study in Pakistan. Some in IPS, some in other universities in Islamabad. I don't know if any students will UMT. I hope we will have some students from our institute or many other universities to come to study at UMT. So at the same time, we also have some students from Pakistan to study at our university, China University, which is one of the top 10 universities in China now. And our person, I have helped them in their application for the study here, and even for their scholarship to study in university. Although this is not enough, but I'm hoping at least we have studied. So in future, definitely, for me, definitely I'll do more on this, and I hope we can work together to promote this educational exchange. And because this is something that is very important to the personnel, to the people, to know more about each other. So meanwhile, we are, as I said, we still have something to be improved. It's just like what I was very much impressed, the first day when on the way back, from the airport to the IPS, when you are introduced to the Chamber of Commerce in Rawalpindi, the Chamber of Commerce industry in Rawalpindi, and I noticed some businessmen, some bosses of some Chinese were taking a course, Chinese language courses. They were very much interested in in Chinese language learning. Of course, they are interested in the market there and the business opportunities there. And they asked some questions, in fact, it's just maybe our two governments maybe should do more on it, and some like with some procedural steps and measures to improve this kind of relationship. Take example of that the visa application. So they say this is hard. In fact, I also feel it's hard. Not so easy to get visas, especially to the visitors to come to Pakistan, and they residents businessmen to go their visa to China. So maybe this is something that we can do. Can suggest with the government to simplify the visa application procedures in that way, so that way to increase the more and more exchanges, personnel exchanges. In short, I've been very optimistic about the relationship in the future. And for myself, I just as I've been doing in the past, I'll continue to contribute whatever I can do to improve the relationship. And as one of the key institutes now, on social science, and especially the exclusive institute on Southeast Studies, and of course now as the Pakistan Study Center, the Australian University, of which I'm part of that, I will definitely, I hope.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Respected Director Sahab, our distinguished Chinese guests, members of the faculty, and honorable students, I am just going to take very little time because Khalid Rahman Sahab already gave me a task to sum up the conference at the end. And not only this, but the last 2 days also. So all I can say that this is a unique conference between two unique friends. There are 3 institutions in Pakistan and 3 institutions in China who are holding a 3-day conference in 3 cities. And there are only 2 things to discuss. One, what is the relationship between the 2 countries, China, Pakistan, and what they can do together in the rest of the world. The world beyond covers the globe. We have been able to develop a multilateral, comprehensive strategic partnership over the years, and China is a global player. And in close cooperation with China, We are a modest-sized regional power. So a global power and a regional power can play a global role. And we have to see what that role is. And many learned speakers are going to give their views on that, on Afghanistan, on Middle East, on Far East, on India-Pakistan situation, on South Asia, and I will give you my thoughts at the end of the conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving an overview of this very conference. Now, I would like to request the worthy guests to proceed for the refreshment. We would gather right after the 10 minutes so that we can freshen up just before the start of the working session. And the